Assalamu alaikum and good evening to you all. Today we are meeting in third class related to English literature. So I have already done 2 classes. So in those 2 classes we discussed about poetic devices that were used by poets or else writers in order to provide some kind of ideas. We already discussed about that. So still we are in poetic devices, but in this class we are hoping to finish the poetic devices. So until 11th poetry device we discussed. So we have to discuss from 12th poetry device. It is called as personification. Normally it can be easy to understand. Personification means in the poem or short story we are going to address a thing, which means an object, but it is not a human. It should be a non-living thing. So we are going to call or mention an object which is not a human by human traits. We are going to provide human traits to those objects. Those are non-living things. So we can't use human traits to mention those things. So in order to create some kind of effect in the poem or short story, the poets were used. Poets used this poetic device called personification. So there is a non-living thing, or else we can say inanimate thing, inhuman thing. So the non-living thing is called by a human name. So he, she, they won't come to address. He, she, like that. The poet used the subject for called or mention an inanimate object. So when I am going to write the definition, we can understand more than this. Attributing human characteristics to an inanimate object. Here, inanimate object means it can be animal, or else we can say non-living things. It is an animal, it can be animal, but it is not a human. At the same time, non-living things means it is not a living thing. It can't live. So that is called as inanimate object. We are going to apply human traits to those objects. That's why this says attributing human characteristics, inanimate object. In order to mention an inanimate object, we use subject as it. They also will come. So in order to instead of using it, we will use other subject which are used to mention human. So for an example, he, she, like that. We are going to call those inanimate objects by these subjects, he, she. This is what the personification's definition says, attributing human characteristics. So we in a short story or poem or a drama, we are going to mention about an object which is not a human object. There's an object which is not a human, and also it is not a living thing. It is not a living thing, but we are going to say we are going to mention about those objects by referring to these subjects, he, she, he and she. So these two subjects are referring to human. We are only using these two subjects for mention about human. So we are going to apply a human traits to those inanimate objects. This is what called personification. For an example, the first poem we have in the syllabus is The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. In this poem, we already have noticed that the eagle is described by the poet, the eagle. But the poet should use the pronoun it. But he didn't use that because he thought that the eagle is a powerful thing, powerful bird. So we have to apply a human trait to eagle. This is what the poet thought, and he called the eagle as he. He climbs the crag with crooked hands. That's like that. The poem starts. So he means in the poem the eagle. He refers to eagle. So eagle is a living thing, but it is not a human. So we are going to apply a human trace to that eagle. For an example I took, we can consider about another example also. The king lion comes to attack innocent animals. So the word king. Normally we know about king. For forest, lion can be the king, but in a country, the king should be human. Here, the king is referring to lion. So uh, lion is not a human. Lion is a living thing actually, but it is not a human. So we are going to apply a human trace to lion. The king lion comes to attack innocent animals. So lion is mentioned as king. So king is a human. King should be a human, but it referring to lion, which is not a human. That's why this says attributing human characteristics. This is a human characteristic to an inanimate object. This is an inanimate object, which means it is not a human. It is an inanimate object. So we are applying this human characteristic, which is king, to inanimate object, which is inanimate object lion. So it is called as personification. So earlier I mentioned an example from our first poem in our syllabus, the eagle. In the poem eagle also we find a major personification there. So where the poet used the pronoun as he to mention about an eagle. So the pronoun it should be come in order to explain about an eagle. But he didn't use because he thought that eagle is some kind of a powerful bird. So in order to give some respect to an object or non-living thing. That's why that is the main intention of those writers and poets. So we can clearly understand about personification. There is a non-living thing or non-living, it can be non-living thing, and also it can be inanimate thing. Inanimate thing should be birds and animals. Non-living thing means we are using day-to-day life, we are using some things. So those are called as non-living things. These two objects are there. We are going to apply a human trace which are not human. We are going to apply human trace to those. This is what called personification. Our next poetic device is called as oxymoron. Oxymoron. This kind of poetic device used where two different things are compared, not compared. In the same line, we are going to add two words, two things we can say, but those two things are not much related. The one word will be the opposite to another word, but the two words should be close to close. It should be nearby. A combination of two words. So in a line, the combination of two words will be there. So those two words will depict two different ideas. It can be two opposite words. The one word can be the opposite word of the other. A combination of two words that appear to contradict each other. Contradict means opposite. Two words are combined all together in a line. Those two words are depicting two different ideas. Two different ideas means exactly the one word which is kept nearby the other word will depict the opposite word, opposite meaning to the other word. Contradict mean opposite or negative, we can say. A combination of two words. Two words are combined together in a line that appear to contradict each other, opposite. Those two words are each other opposite. So, when we refer to the example, a pointless point of view. A point of view is there which reflects the pointless. A pointless point of view. This line talks about a point of view, but this point of view is pointless. Here, these two words are combined together in a line, but pointless is the opposite word of point. So, opposite each other. These two words are combined, a combination of two words. Two words are combined here in a line that appear to contradict each other. Each other they are possessing opposite words. Point. What is the opposite points? Opposite word of point? Pointless. What is the opposite word of pointless? Point. Each other they are possessing opposite meanings, negative meanings. Pointless point. A pointless point of view. It talks about point of view, but this point of view is pointless. There is no meaning to think about point of view. Like that, this statement says, but we don't have to consider about the meaning of these lines. Here's just not this. A pointless point of view. Pointless is there. Point is there. These two words are altogether combined in a line. Pointless is the opposite word of point. Likewise, point is the opposite word of pointless. Each other they are different. Here another example, bittersweet experience. Bittersweet experience. Two words are combined. We have to select two words which are opposite. Each another opposite words. Bittersweet experience. Bittersweet experience means we don't have to select sweet and experience. Some people can think a combination of two words. So we can select whatever two words we like. We can select sweet and experience, bitter and experience. But it should not. We have to carefully watch that. If we select two words which are combined, it should be possessing opposite meanings each other. Bitter, sweet. These are combined in a line. Bitter is nearby the sweet. So these two words are combined. So this is a combination of two words, bitter, sweet. And also see that bitter is the opposite word of sweet. These two words are altogether opposite. These two words don't possess the same thing. Here, bitter, sweet. Bitter is different from sweet because bitter is the opposite word of sweet. Bitter, sweet. Sweet is the opposite word of bitter. So, two words are combined in a line. At the same time, those two words have to possess two opposite words, which means each other they have to be opposite. Bitter, sweet. Here also we told that pointless, point. Two words are combined, but pointless is the opposite to point. Here, bitter is opposite to sweet. This is called as oxymoron. It also can be matched as to contrast. In the earlier class, we discussed about contrast also as a poetic device. But in contrast, we discussed that two different ideas have to be represented. So we talked about a girl's characteristics and at the same line a boy's characteristics. Those mainly contrast talks about characteristics, two opposite characteristics. But here we don't consider about characteristics. Pointless, point. These are not a characteristics. These are not characteristics. Bittersweet. So here we mainly consider about two words. But in the earlier poetic device we studied as contrast. We didn't see the words. We didn't care about the word because those words have to be characteristics. In contrast, contrast mainly talks about characteristics, two characteristics. Those two characteristics should be each other different, opposite. But here we don't consider about characteristics. It is all about two opposite words in a line. This is the difference between oxymoron and the contrast. Imagery. Our last poetic device we are going to discuss in this class is imagery. What do you mean by imagery? In some short story or poem, there can be some incident mentioned. So when we read those incident, we can get an image inside our mind. This is called as imagery. Imagery. It can be visualized. Visual imagery is there, and also we have auditory imagery. When a sound or when a statement is mentioned in the poem or short story related to a sound, we can, when we are reading that statement, when we are reading that sentence, we can hear the sound will automatically come to our mind. So that is called as auditory imagery. In visual imagery, some sceneries like that we can imagine in our mind, inside our mind, and we can get an image. So actually, we want in the exact situation. We won't be in the exact situation, but we can see what was happened in this country, like that. We can imagine and we can live that in the situation. Like that, imagery construct. Mainly, we have to study about types of imagery. Visual imagery. Visual imagery is related to our eyes. When let's say a situation is given in a short story, we are reading that situation which is given in the short story. When we are reading, we can see the situation like we are living in this situation. We can live in the exact situation, in the exact place. That means we are getting an image related to that situation inside our mind. That is called as visual imagery. It is always related to eyes. Next is auditory imagery. Auditory imagery is related to our ears. Auditory audio, like that we can remember. A sentence is given in the short story or poem. When we are reading that statement or sentence, we can get the sound of the incident. For an example, a bus accident is mentioned in a short story. We can hear the sound of the clashes occur between the two vehicles. So like that we can hear those sounds given in the short story or any other things. For us, these two types of imagery is enough to study. Mostly these two types of imagery we can see in the short story we are going to study in our syllabus. So visual imagery, auditory imagery. I tell those imageries again. Visual imagery is always related to eyes. That means when we are referring to a short story or drama or novel, we are going to read a separate part of the thing. We are going to read the separate part of a short story or poem. When we are reading that paragraph, we are imagining and we are getting an image. So, for an example, a scenery about a village is mentioned in the short story. When we are reading about the paragraph about mentioned about the village, we can get an exact image of village. Actually, it will be like we are seeing that village. Like that, the visual imagery comes. Auditory imagery is always related to ears. Ears means we are hearing. For an example, in a short story, The Lahore attack by Kumar Sangakkara, here the gunshots are put on in the bus. Put on to bus. So Kumar Sangakkara mentioned the sound as rainwater in tin roof, like that. he mentioned. So when we reading that line, we can identify that the exit sound, the sound of bullets spreading, bullets shattering inside the bus. So those incidents, a sound we can hear. So it is about ears. These are the two types of imagery. So far we have finished all our poetic devices. There can be more poetic devices than I explained you, but for our syllabus, these can be the important poetic devices. I hope so. I hope today's class will be the useful class to you. So in our next video log, we can discuss about poems we are having in our syllabus. So from that, I'm going to end up the class. Thank you for watching. Another important thing is that most of you are watching our videos without subscribing. So please do subscribe. Then we can get a support from you. So if you think that these videos will be useful to other students who are learning English literature, please share those videos. So thanks for watching.